What's good, Joe? What's good, Real Talk Squad? This is Miles, and you're listening to Real Talk with Miles Johnson, where I always keep it real. Let's get right into it, man. Y'all know I'm riding high off the Eagles win, the Eagles back in the Super Bowl. And for those of y'all that are just tuning in right now, this is a new face on Real Talk. My man Shane, me and Shane go way back in the high school days, I believe. He was
For real.
up at Haverford School, right up the street from Friends Central. It's also in Jack and Jill together too. So I interviewed Sam Brown, uh I say a couple weeks ago. So I'm kind of keeping that, Jack and Jill thing going. But welcome to the show. And before you start, I want to introduce you real quick. And first off, this is somebody that is killing it on the field and off the field. And you talk about somebody that's has that duality of being an athlete and also being a sports analyst. Like, this is somebody that really knows the game of football. So he's a redshirt sophomore at Hampton University. He's a edge rusher, and he's also the founder and co-executive producer of Saber Sports TV. I'll be looking at their stuff, the whole setup. It's real official. Like, it's actually official. This is something I want to bring to Maroon Tiger and Morehouse. But again, Shane, happy to have you on. Thank you so much for joining.
My God, appreciate you.
For sure. So, how was your first reaction when you heard the whole? Not when you heard, but when you saw the Eagles, get into you know Super Bowl.
Hey, I think I was probably like screaming the entire game. And then as soon as that clock hit zero, I couldn't sit down for like the rest of the night until I went to sleep.
Yeah,
Like we was talking about it too. Like it didn't almost feel real. Like I
for
woke up
real.
this morning, bro. Like I'm seeing all this stuff on Instagram, bro. I just you ever wake up just happy?
Yep,
Like just real happy, woke up, didn't have many responsibilities. I said, it's a great day. It was raining outside, but it felt like it was sunny.
for real. For real. I was walking around, my class, geared up from head
I
to
saw
toe,
it.
Eagle stuff. Saw that on my story. I
I
was
saw it.
hyped, rolled up to campus, you know, dreams and nightmares. I'm a boss, like all that. I was all in my Philly badge, playing court, all that. And so and I'm with you, like, I was like, I knew they were gonna do this, but like,
Hmm.
again, if you would have told me before this season the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, I would have been like, "You're crazy." And one of the biggest fans. I'm one of the biggest fans. And my phone went off, but like, yeah, I'm one of the biggest fans. Like, I don't. Did you expect like this magical run to happen?
That's the thing though, like it wasn't crazy to me. Like all the offseason moves we made, the draft picks we made, like um Howie Roseman did his thing this year. That
Facts.
front office did their thing, especially after like so long of just like, oh, what's going on? We just picked Jalen Rieger instead of Justin Jefferson. We just picked Jalen Rieger instead of DK. Like you know what I mean? Like it's just like after all those years of rough draft picks, and then this great offseason that we had, picking up Son Reddick, picking up James Bradbury, CJ Gardner Johnson, drafting
Yep.
Jordan Davis, drafting the Kobe Dean, and then obviously trading for AJ Brown, huge pickup, which I think is what bumped us over that next level. I honestly, it definitely wasn't going to be a first round this year. No, absolutely not. And it's funny because me and my dad, we were arguing about this like all off season. He's saying Jalen Hurts not the guy. We need another QB. Jalen Hurts is gonna get it done. And then as soon as we started getting defeated, only lost one game after that. He was able to shut up. He was like, "Hey, man, you were right." You and me, I think, bro, some of the only ones that really saw that coming in terms of Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts having that sort of success this early on. But yeah, man,
Facts.
this is great.
That was great. I mean, like, right with me because I feel like I've been saying the same thing over and over. I knew the first game that Hurts started in when Wentz was playing so bad that the whole city
Right.
of Philadelphia was like, heck, put Hurts in. That's I mean, shoot, yeah, we got nothing
Me
to lose
too.
at this point. And then
Right.
they ended up adding him in when we played the Saints, who at the time, this is 2021, at the time they were the best,
Solid.
2020, at that time they were the best defense in the league. And
Right.
then he goes on to upset them. We're like, what the heck? We couldn't
Right.
win against Giants and the
Right.
Commanders, and we just
Right.
beat the best defense. And his first start, it's like the whole
Right.
team just played better. And
Right.
then you come down to that next game against the Cardinals. He put up a pretty good fight against Kyler Murray, who was again ascending and was,
Yeah.
putting up some
And
good
D
numbers. He Diop, and that's when Diop was in his prime too. That was when
yeah.
Diop was in his prime. And so
Catch you had that game too.
facts. And so from that point on, I knew, okay, he's a baller, bro. And
Right.
again, his first year as a starter, I really say that's his first year because I don't count the whole 4 or 5 games.
Right.
And so that first year, he ends up getting a team 9 wins that was projected to get no more than 4 and getting that wild card spot. And again, he
Exactly.
lost to Tom Brady, but I was still hearing stuff about he's not that guy. I'm like, he lost to the GOAT. He lost to a team that took the Rams to the very, very end. If it wasn't for a Cooper Cup,
Exactly.
50-yard. So I'm like, it don't make no sense to me. It don't make no sense to me. It don't make no sense to
Right.
me. So I'm happy that it finally took, and you still have some doubters now, but I'm happy that
Always.
it's like this is confirmation. You have a guy who's in the MVP conversation, second at worst, and he's now got his team in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, and it's no coincidence. The last thing I'm gonna say too is no coincidence that the top 2 candidates have teams into the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Like, this is not something that's like a fluke. It's not something that they were like a 5th seed just inching in, got some
Right.
lucky injuries, and they ended up
Right.
passing towards Super Bowl. Like, this is a team, they were both the number 1 teams in their conferences, had the
Right.
best players in their conferences or that season, and they
Right.
flat out got it done. So who do you think is
Right.
MVP?
That's the thing, bro. Like, you could really make cases for both, and side note, anyone who says Jalen Hurts and Pat or Jalen Hurts is not a front runner with Pat is out of their mind. They're crazy. I don't want to hear anything they have to say. Like, anyone who thinks that Josh Allen is more of an MVP right now than Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, and don't get me wrong, those are definitely some guys. Like, those are some studs, but you can't ignore both the performance of Jalen Hurts and Pat along with the impact that they had on their respective teams. So starting with Pat Mahomes, just to kind of, get through that. Pat Mahomes, first year without Tyreek, still threw for 41 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards. He's in the Super Bowl. He still looks like the same Pat with Tyreek that he does, without Tyreek. It's the same Pat. That was one of the questions at the beginning of the offseason is, what player is under the most pressure right now going into the season? And the answer at the time would have been Patrick Mahomes or one of the answers, at least one of the best ones, would have been Patrick Mahomes because what can he do without the fastest receiver in the world? Arguably one of the fastest men in the world in general. What can he do? Now, he still has Travis Kelce, who is the best tight end in the game, hands down. Solid receiving core. But losing Tyreek, it changed their offense a little bit, in terms of, what they could do, switched up their versatility a little bit. Now picking up Kadarius Toney helps, Jerick McKinnon having a good year helps. Valdez-Scantling being Valdez-Scantling helped. But, that's hard to ignore. But then you look at Jalen Hurts, the guy, one of your boys. Yeah. People were saying the Eagles are just so good that even if Jalen Hurts wasn't on the team, they would still be a playoff team. One of my guys today, we just filmed the episode of Saber Sports Today, my boy Jeremiah, he goes on there and says, the Eagles still make the playoffs if Gardner Minshew is the QB.
Heck no. Heck no.
You know how sick I was in the control room, Miles? You know
Heck
how
no.
sick I was? I said, Gardner, he lost 3 games at the end of the season. He lost 3 games. He had a good performance against Dallas. I'll give him that. Had a good performance. That loss wasn't really on him. It was on that Miles Sanders fumble. But after that, that's not an MVP candidate. You get what I mean? So even though, and your offensive weapons, which is another point for the 49ers as well, but your offensive weapons can only do so much, depending on who's at QB. Because they
Yep.
can't control once they get the ball. They can't control what type of ball placement they get in a 1v1 situation or in, cover two scenarios like that. I mean, so it's a different team. The Eagles are a different team with Hurts in the backfield. The defense
Facts.
even plays better. And I was saying, and I said on our last episode, Jalen Hurts, he really has the best of both worlds. In terms of our last Super Bowl year, we had Nick Foles, our standout backup, who just stepped in, did his thing, won those last few regular season games, and then took us on to win the Super Bowl. He had the respect of the locker room. He had the leadership. When he was on the field and was playing in the game, the energy all around was at an all-time high. He had not been the most talented QB, especially not more talented than at that time Carson Wentz, but he was better for our team. He was better for the situation. Carson Wentz, talented. He could have really been the MVP that year. I forget who lost. I think it was Todd Gurley. I think he lost to, or something. It was somebody. But
I think it was to Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. It was Tom Brady.
In the year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It was Tom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, and Carson Wentz, he was the front runner right behind Tom. You know what I mean? So definitely had the talent that year. Crazy year. Jalen Hurts is a mix of both. He has the talent that Carson Wentz had back then, but he also has that Nick Foles effect in the locker room to the rest of the team. He's a leader, but he's a big play guy as well.
Facts. And with Jalen Hurts, makes him so special, his ability to not only pass, which he's made strides for, especially in the offseason, but to run the ball. Because if you had a guy in Gardner Minshew, and look, for some of y'all watching this right now, it might sound ridiculous, to think, obviously a backup quarterback, would not do as well as the starter. You would think people would believe that and wouldn't be just you think that would be common knowledge. But no, it's people that actually believe because the Eagles have all these playmakers that Hurts is just a guy. Both things can be true. No, Hurts is that guy, and he has a great team around him. That's not something that you can say is one or the other. And so ultimately, that acquisition that you talked about with AJ Brown, that was the key with everything, because that makes a guy like Devontae Smith not a necessity. That makes a guy like Miles Sanders not a necessity. That makes guys like Kev Gainwell, Boston Scott not a necessity, because you have that guy to rely on. And even when he's not on against the Giants upset the Vikings. And then when they play the Eagles, they held AJ Brown to 22 yards and they still got beat by 30. That just showed top to bottom, and especially when the run game is clicking. And I think that will be the difference, as we'll talk about later in the episode about, how they'll match up against KC. But their ability to run the ball with Hurts at the center of it, because defenses are thinking, I don't know if Hurts is going to pass the ball, if he's going to throw to Devontae, if he's going to throw to AJ, or if he's going to roll. Those play action passes are so key. And Nick Sirianni has done a wonderful job, with Jalen Hurts as well. Although I still think that Doug Pearson would have gotten us the same results.
No doubt.
So, how you feel? So, how you feel about? So, I was thinking, I was gonna post this in a episode. I might post it a little bit later. this week. But I'm of the belief that Jalen Hurts and Howie Roseman are the two guys most responsible for the Eagles to clinch a Super Bowl berth. Because I'm not
Yeah.
saying Nick Sirianni is like a scrub,
Right.
but
So he
when
had to
Hurts,
give him the tools.
yeah, when Hurts was out, Garner Minshew could not beat this, or they couldn't even beat the Saints. So that showed you once Hurts is that guy, and then the roster that Howie constructed around him because he ended up believing in Hurts is the reason why the Eagles are in the Super Bowl now.
Right.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Howie Rose, like I said before, his maneuvering in the draft is just something we've never seen from him on this level. Like just genius maneuvering, like almost like unreal. Like the fact that we were able to get AJ Brown for what we got him for, like
That's
it's a
crazy.
steal. Like so, yeah, like that's something you would only see in Madden. Like just trying to, back in the day when you were young, you wanted your team to be good, so you would stack the roster. That's like what Howie Roseman did this year with the Titans.
Right.
Being able to get AJ, and getting AJ is like you said, it makes everyone else dangerous. Like it made Dallas Goedert a lot more dangerous this year, being a good third down option. Devontae Smith, allowing him to be more of even though he can break some, being able to fit him into like his natural more possession catch type of plays, even though he can skate on them, whenever he wants, but making him more of a possession catcher. And then our backfield. When you got AJ Brown, attention is going to go to him, so it opens up midfield for the running backs. And the last time we had a backfield this good was in 2017 when we won the Super Bowl with
Yeah.
LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi, Corey Clement. We had a plethora of guys that we could throw back there and get some yards. So, just having AJ Brown in the field makes everyone's job easier. Like everyone's
Facts.
job.
And I think how you feel about that Devontae Smith catch, quote unquote catch. To me, I'm like, heck, the fact that he was able to even like just make that play, to me,
Right,
to me, hey, that was like a catch to me. Now, if you want to go
right.
in the replay, it might not been a
Yeah,
catch, but I respect the effort out of anything. I mean, heck, I
absolutely.
couldn't do that.
Yeah, trying to get up for that, like getting up for that alone is ridiculous. The fact that he was able to get not just fingers but a full palm on the ball, and then be able to reel it in, that's still a great play. But I do think they knew what they was doing the no huddle offense right after that. Because he
Yeah,
snapped the ball, there's nothing you can do. So I definitely think that was smooth, them being able to get away with that. But if you look at yesterday, like other than that call, like for the first time, I think Eagles history, this is the first time the Eagles have gotten every single call that we should have gotten and didn't get
no,
cheated
for
once.
real.
The first time. Like everything went right for us on that end while everything was going wrong for the 49ers at the same
That's exactly what happened. Like
time.
that first quarter, when you I mean, and like Brock Purdy didn't even last the first drive. Like it's not funny, but like, cause he got injured, but he didn't even
Right,
last the first drive, and
right,
Hassan Reddick was already on him. Like
right,
that showed me I was like he was gonna be in for a bad day, even if he stayed in for the entire game or didn't get injured like that, because
right.
the Eagles' defensive line was having their way, and
Ridiculous. On here.
we saw yesterday who had the better defensive line. Y'all might have a better star. The
Right,
49ers might have a better star. Well, they definitely do have the better star in Nick Bosa. But
right,
the Eagles' defensive line has played the best and most
right.
consistent all year. It's not even
Absolutely.
like it's that's the reason why they are in the Super Bowl. Biggest one of the biggest reasons is their defensive line. You got
Absolutely.
four guys with double digit sacks and Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Brandon
Absolutely.
Graham, and
Yep.
Javon Hargrave. Like, you got a unit right there. And that's all credit to my man Howie. Howie.
Mm-hmm.
It's all credit to him. And so I want to, shift gears to the Chiefs and Bengals game. And I
Right.
predicted that the Chiefs would lose actually to the Bengals because I thought you have uh, 80% at best Patrick Mahomes. You
Right.
have
Same for
um
Kelsey.
exactly. Kelsey was questionable. You
Mm-hmm.
have all the momentum. You just beat Josh Allen and company that, we're
Yes.
looking to have a Cinderella, or not a Cinderella run, but they were looking to, have a magical run after
Right.
the whole, drama and all that with DeMar.
Right.
But they're riding high on that, talking all this trash about Burrow ahead, and they end
Right.
up losing. So what was your takeaways from the Bengals and Chiefs game?
One, I'm kind of happy that I was wrong in my prediction because I predicted the Bengals winning too. I was kind of happy because Eli Apple really annoys me. Like bro, somebody that does so much talking and gives up literally the biggest plays. Oh my gosh, bro. I was so happy Pat was able to shut him up. Like that was the only reason why I was happy that the Chiefs won. But then you also just gotta like just admire and respect the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelsey too, but
Fact.
focusing on Patrick Mahomes, like because there was debates going on, which I was very a part of in terms of who is the best QB right now. Is it because Joe Burrow was definitely making an argument for himself at the beginning of the postseason, and then as the Bengals every year they ramp up the closer they get to postseason. They only get better as they get to the postseason. So you couldn't say that Patrick Mahomes was shoulders above Burrow. You couldn't say Josh Allen was above Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow won. Joe Burrow beat him. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a conversation, but I think this game, at least in terms of this year so far, like in terms of the present time that we are in, Patrick Mahomes is that guy. Right now, he's head of the pack in terms of talent, ability, just being able to create creativity, winning. It's Patrick Mahomes because the fact that he was able to that last 8 yards he scrambled, won them the game.
No,
It
that
won them
was
the game. Because even without that late hit on Joseph Osai, he still got the first down past the 40, and there's one quick pass away. He's at the and is one quick pass away from getting in the field goal range where what's his name? I forget his name. The Butker, the solid kicker that he is, would have been able to knock that down easily, and that's the game. So I really think that's why I think even without that late hit, the Chiefs could have still pulled that out. But I think the factor in this game was going to decide who's the best QB.
Yeah.
At least from the AFC standpoint, because you know who your tier 1 guys are. That everyone can agree on. We know Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen are tier 1. There's debate for Jalen Hurts. Out of the year he just had, but no argument can be had that Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Cole are in that tier 1. So now that Pat was able to, with the injured ankle on one leg, was able to still throw for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then have the game-winning scramble. There's no question he's the best. You can't refute that.
You can't. I mean, and there was that talk about, is Joe Burrow better than Patrick Mahomes because the Bengals beat the Chiefs, 3 straight times. But this is a guy in Patrick Mahomes. Let's put this into context. He's only in his 2 playoff losses, he has only lost in overtime. So he's never lost in regulation in the playoffs. Like, this is like beyond Jordan. Like, you talk about some, with Michael Jordan, he never went to a game 7. He never lost in regulation. Like he's on some other stuff right now. So
Right.
Mahomes, especially without Tyreek Hill, because I didn't think they was gonna make it back. I think they was gonna go back to Super Bowl
Right.
because I thought it was either gonna be the Bills, and then especially with this injury, I was like, heck. And then I saw that
Right.
first with the Bengals beating the Bills, and then Mahomes getting his injury. I was like, oh yeah, the Bengals for sure gonna win. But prior to the season started, I thought the Bills were definitely had their number. He
Exactly.
goes ahead and gets back to a Super Bowl without his best guy and with his best tight end not
Yes.
the same. And you have receivers in and out. You're throwing balls to practice squad guys. I'm like, I will say credit to Chris Jones, game of his life. That sack he had at the end,
Yes.
essentially, ended the game. And so he played the game of his life. He needed to play the game of his life. And he's gonna have to when they talk about now how will the Chiefs fare against the Eagles, because when you talk about look, I predicted the Bengals to beat the Chiefs, but just like you said, I was happy that the Chiefs won. One, because the Bengals, they were very cocky for a team that hasn't won anything. And then two, I like the matchup with Kansas City much better than I like
Oh yeah.
the matchup with the Bengals, because the Bengals
Absolutely.
defense at full strength, that Bills game, that showed me that scared me, because if you can do that to Josh
Right.
Allen and company like that, I
Right.
mean, y'all showed y'all's potential. So
Right.
how do you think the Chiefs will fare? You said that you want the Chiefs to, ultimately, win. How do you think they'll fare against the Eagles in the next couple of weeks? And obviously, we'll talk about this more too. I mean, on our individual pages too, closer to the Super Bowl. But what's your thoughts right now?
It's gonna be a long night for them boys in Kansas City. It's gonna be a long night. Patrick Mahomes, we saw what that game looked like against the Bucks. You had Shaq, and you got Shaq Barrett lined up across from you, Vita Vea, Devin White, who else was over there? JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul. You got some pass rushers, you got defense, and them dudes were chasing Pat around all game, and that was when he actually had Tyreek to throw to as well. So, and I think our D line is better than the Bucs D line was that for that Super Bowl team. When you talk about, because we're a team that uses a 5-man rush pretty regularly, which includes Hassan Reddick, includes BG Brandon Graham, Josh
Yeah.
Sweat, Ron Harvey, Fletcher Cox. And then when you just need someone to stuff those A gaps, you got Linville. Yeah, Fletcher Cox can do that too. But then you got George Davis. You got Linville Joseph, and then you got Ndamukong Suh. Like it's a vet heavy team. It's a young team. Like there's the versatility in this D line is scary. Like scary. And then for the Chiefs to not have anything less than the best O-line in the league, like anything less than we saw what we did to the 49ers O-line last night. And that's a good O-line. That's a good O-line. You saw what we did in Dallas the first game and the last game, and that's a good O-line. So the fact that the Eagles are playing a worse O-line, with all the weapons that we have. And it's not like we just got 1 or 2 guys. We got solid 6 guys that can after QB if they need to. Solid 6 guys that can stop the run. So and then we got I'll touch on the linebackers later, but that's scary. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but if he has someone in his face all game, I mean, he can only do so much. And that's why I think ultimately the Bucs won. Because I always say a strong pass rush can win you games, which is why why the Chiefs won last night. Chris Jones, like you said, having the night, 2.5 sacks. Frank Clark having a night, 1.5, 2 sacks. So you have a strong pass rush, anything is possible. And then you get to
Anything's
the
possible.
linebacker. Yes. And then you get to the linebacker core. People don't really talk about TJ Edwards enough.
He is an animal. He is everywhere. He's everywhere.
Yes. He had 99 solo tackles and over 100 total tackles. And then you got Kazir White, who they can either use as a blitzer, an extra runner, but can also stop the run and play the pass. No, it's hard, And then you got Darius Slade, James Bradford, that speaks for itself. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was leading the league in interceptions before he got hurt. That speaks for itself. So it's the defense I think is ultimately going to win us this game. Because if we can slow down Pat, because we know their defense isn't strong enough to stop the Eagles' defense. I think the Eagles' defense is too dynamic for the Chiefs' defense to stop, especially with losing Tyrann Mathieu. So when you weigh our offense against their defense, we know what's going to happen there. But now looking at our defense, our offense, how many points are they really going to be able to put up against that D line?
Facts.
Just a line by itself.
And with Mahomes, for him to beat the Eagles, he would have to play like superhuman, which isn't like the reason why I was so comfortable and I was so confident with the 49ers losing to the Eagles. Although Brock Purdy, barely played, or he barely played healthy, was the fact that, through adversity, I didn't think that Purdy would be able to like overcome it or, give you those like spectacular moments that a guy like Mahomes is going to give you. And so the Chiefs, they got a puncher's chance. It's not like, they got no chance. They got a puncher's chance just because they got Mahomes, who's the best player in the league, and he got that like GOAT potential. Like he got that GOAT potential. Like if he keeps this up, I ain't gonna lie. And so moving forward against the Eagles, again, like you said, top to bottom, talk about their defensive line. They're gonna get after a guy in Patrick Mahomes, who, yes, he's gonna have 2 more weeks to heal up that ankle, but that ankle is not gonna be 100%. So it's gonna be a lot to ask for a guy that had a high ankle sprain to run for his life when you got Hassan Reddick, who's been on a mission. And I think he should, if he has, I don't know what contract he's on right now. I gotta do more research, but he should be in for a payday because he is severely underpaid right now. Man, he is snapping right now. Josh Sweat, all these guys. I mean, I feel like Brandon Graham. I mean, I know he's not that old, but like he's been doing this since 2017. Fletcher Cox been doing this since 2017. I mean, well before 2017. This is first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, I can't say enough about Fletcher Cox, but he was around the days when Jason Peters was with us, and Peters is now a Dallas Cowboy. He's on his last legs, so he's on his way. So ultimately, I don't see like the Eagles top to bottom. Like I said in my last video, like they're not going to lose you a game. And the key to success is to have a pass rush that gets after the quarterback, and you have a quarterback that doesn't turn over the ball. Because Dak Prescott was turning over the ball. That's why they lost to the 49ers. Jalen Hurts against the 49ers did not turn over the ball. That's what he's got to do against the Chiefs. And if he takes care of the football, the Eagles will win. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And I got them winning that John as well. And I know it just hurts. Again, he got that aura to him. I don't think he's 100% either right now, but he has that aura to him where it's like guys really, they play for him. And I had something a little bit earlier last week about how Hurts gives he reminds me of that Jordan impact. What and I think Nick Sirianni co-signed that. He was talking about some. He reminds me of Jordan. So what would you say to all that? Any validity to that? Is that talking gibberish? Is that talking crazy? Like what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think people confuse that statement with Sirianni saying he is the Jordan equivalent in football that Jordan was, back in his prime. And I don't think that's what he was saying, and I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts can't be that, sometime in the future. But what he was saying was, which I can see the truth in, is how he drives his team. Because we know MJ back in his prime, he would get on his teammates. He would push his teammates almost as much as he would push himself, which is saying a lot. So the fact that, and that's the type of leadership that Jalen Hurts has, which is what we kind of talked about earlier in terms of having that Nick Foles effect. But he's a guy, you can see it. He's a guy that pushes his teammates almost as much, or if not as much as he pushes himself. Throughout the year. And I don't think, and which is why I think the statement that the Eagles would be in the playoffs without Jalen Hurts, I think that's a ridiculous statement, because no one else is pushing that team and has the effect on that team that Jalen Hurts does. Not only the leadership and the voice, but also the skills, work ethic, and the talent to back it up.
Facts. That's it. That's it. Because from day one, this is a guy in Jalen Hurts. He recognized the moment. He recognized, what, the Eagles, they drafted him in the second round, but people gonna make it seem like they drafted him to take over Wentz's spot. They did not want Wentz to leave. Wentz left. Wentz wanted to leave. They wanted to keep Wentz. I think that's part of the reason why Doug Pearson got fired, was because he ain't believe in Wentz no more, and they did. And then Carson Wentz leaves, and what happens? They're like, hey, I mean, we got to roll the dice with this guy, Jalen Hurts, and see what he can do. Then he ends up surprising everybody and getting the team in the playoffs. So like, heck, I mean, let me give him a number one wide receiver, just like how Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs, just like how Tua Tagovailoa got Tyreek
Yeah.
Hill, just like how when Tom Brady won the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, he had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Like, yes,
Number one.
I'm saying? You gotta throw the ball to somebody. That's why I be so that's why with Justin Fields, I'm like, yo, give the guy a number one wide receiver, see what he's gonna do. See what he's gonna do. He's gonna be cooking. He's gonna be cooking. Same with Lamar Jackson. And he's still cooking too. So that with number one wide receiver piece, like we touched on earlier, is huge, is key. And I think again, the Eagles secondary is too good to be getting cooked by, a hurt Kadarius Toney. I mean, like again, a questionable or a not 100% Travis Kelce. All they gotta do is double Kelce and just force everybody else to beat you. And I like our chances. We got Avonte Max coming back, so I like our chances, man. Again, as we look into the Super Bowl, is there a player that you're on the lookout for to have a big game? And do you think that? Well, yeah, I want you to answer that, and then to follow up with that. This could be the same player, but who do you have winning Super Bowl MVP?
So immediately, the player I look at as having a standout game, who, you know what, I'm gonna call it. I think this player is going to be Super Bowl MVP, and this is the player I'm looking at coming into this game. It's Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick was the best player on both sides of the ball on both teams in the game last night. Just the effect that he had on any QB that they was trying to, even though they didn't have a QB to put out there, whoever was in the backfield, Hassan Reddick was in their face almost every other play. Yep. And you look at it, even though Brock Purdy, like you said, had an early exit, probably maybe in a different game with him, we'll never know. But even with Brock Purdy in the game, the rate at which Hassan was getting in the backfield, it didn't make a difference who was back there. Unless it was, but out of those QBs they had, it didn't make a difference who was back there. Whether it was Brock Purdy, Josh Johnson, C-Mac, if they wanted, since they wanted to do Pop Warner football towards the end of the game, run a wildcat and dives in the middle. No matter who was back there, Hassan was going to get back there. And that puts the O-line in a bind because looking at that 49ers game, having a backup tight end obviously didn't work. Having a backup tight end blocking obviously didn't work. Trying to have, and then it puts you in a bind in terms of what you want to do with Kittle. Do you want Kittle to stay in and double team Hassan, but then that takes your quarterback's favorite target out of the game, out of the play? Do you want Kittle to run a delayed route where he can get a chip on Hassan, so Orlando or whoever can get his hands on Hassan long enough to give the QB time to throw, but then that slows down Kittle, and then you don't even know if the QB is going to have that much time to throw to because you got Josh Sweat on the other side, you got Javon Hargrave in the middle, or you got Brandon Graham inside Hassan, or Fletcher Cox. Hassan puts O lines and QBs in a very rough predicament because it's hard to account for him. He makes the other player at D more dangerous, honestly. Mm-hmm. So heading into this game, I definitely see Hassan. I see him getting 3 sacks. Definitely see him getting 3 sacks in this game, maybe 3.5. Depending on how this O line is feeling. But I definitely see him getting 3 sacks and getting the MVP, Super Bowl MVP, because Von was able to do it. And he took, when the Broncos went to the Super Bowl, he had 2 sacks, 1 strip sack for that one that was recovered for a touchdown. So and Hassan, and the thing about Hassan is he really can do everything, or just about everything that the top guys in the game can do in terms like pass rushing, in terms of Von, in terms of AD. Like he can get to the QB just as easily as they can. And he's really, and I'm glad that he's finally, getting that respect because he's been underrated for a long time. So I'm definitely rooting for him this game. I've been a fan of his for a while, and if I gotta go with somebody, I'm going with him in terms of standout player and Super Bowl MVP.
Man, I love that pick. I was talking with my friends earlier today, and I was telling them Hassan Reddick is going to have a field day. He's going to have a field day because they can't double him. They can't double him because you still got 3 other guys that have been wreaking havoc, and you got to respect. And so you got to just roll the dice, or if you want to pull in a guy, again, like Travis Kelce to block him. But then again, who is Patrick Mahomes throwing to? That's his best weapon right there. So Hassan Reddick, puts the Chiefs in the pickle to be like, what are we going to do? And especially if they start getting pressure on early, then Mahomes is going to be in for a long day, because how that defense, what I've seen from this defense all season, when they sense like some fear, and when they sense they got you early on, they don't let up. They don't let up. And these last 2 games, they've only given up a total of 14 points. In addition to the offense scoring over 38 against, or 37. I'm not paying. It was 38 against the Giants, 31. Yeah. So y'all had 69 points and only gave up 14 points in the playoffs right now. Like y'all are, like the Eagles are, like, putting that into perspective. The Eagles are flat out dominating right now, and the Chiefs, unfortunately, are the team that are coming in hobbled. While the Eagles, although they had some guys like Lane Johnson who was out, who can clap it up for him. I mean, that guy's on a torn groin and was still, putting in work against Nick Bosa. Or talk about, a guy in, I think off my head, Avonte Maddox, who injured his toe against the Cowboys, and he is now healthy. So the Eagles are healthy at the perfect time. But back to my question about who do I think, is going to have a big game in the Super Bowl, it's gotta be Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell has been running very, very well in the playoffs. Very well. That game against the Giants when they had a record setting amount of rushing yards. Gainwell
Yep.
had 100 yards. 100
Yep.
yards.
Over
And then
that.
against the 49ers, he had 48 yards, which
Mhm.
is obviously isn't as much, but he had the most yards out of running backs. So
It
he
was a
got some
good 48.
momentum coming to him, and he's running very, very hard, breaking tackles. I'm loving the way his energy, all that. I love that. So that's be a guy that I think will have, you know, a breakout game, at least a touchdown, maybe a touchdown or two from game will at least 70 yards. But I'm gonna have to say that Jalen Hurts rises to the occasion. Ultimately, there are some things that he can look back from, and he will look back from when talk about that missed throw to AJ Brown. That was a
Yeah.
sure touchdown. He'll look at that
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, I got to improve." And guys
Yeah.
like Jalen Hurts, they don't have back to back, like because that game against the 49ers, that wasn't a great game from him. It was good. It was good. It wasn't nothing like crazy. But guys like
Mhm.
him, they bounce back from that and they end up having great games. So I expect Hurts to have a great game. So again, who I think will have, a surprising big game in the Super Bowl, I got Kenneth Gainwell. And who do I think will win the MVP? Gotta be my man, Jalen Hurts. Man, Shane, I appreciate you for hopping on the episode. Sliding, I told you we was going to end at 9:30 at the latest.
On the
I feel like I
dot.
did pretty good on my time, but I feel like we definitely, hey man, we definitely gotta, do this again. I want to do this in person. Well, whenever we get back to Philly and all that, or
Sure.
gotta do something in person. But no,
I
I
want to
really
get you on the
appreciate.
show.
Got to,
I
got
want to
to.
get you on the show, man. If you come out, or something, having you on the show would be great. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, man, I'm all for it. Like, so what's your so is y'all's network have to like Hampton like supported it because like that's pretty dope if Hampton like supported.
Yeah, so Hampton, we already have like our own news channel, like that's just like campus wide, maybe like a little, it reaches a little out of campus too. But it's a Hampton channel that plays, it supports the regular news team, which I was a part of this semester or this year and last year. Another show, Raw TV, by my guy TJ, who's on my team for the sports show, which is just a regular show. But yeah, it supports all of our shows. My faculty advisor, Mr. Heffron, has been, mainly my point guy in terms of helping me with the studio mechanics and format style of the show, really helping us in terms of our development. And the dean of our department of the journalism department, she's working on doing a couple things the show, in terms of just taking it to the next level, whatever we can do with the show. She's trying to look in those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So we're definitely pushing, trying to do as much as we can, with the show, for because most of us are seniors, so we're trying to just do as much as we can, while we have it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's so much fun, bro. I got to tell you, it's like you don't even feel like work at this point.
Yeah. No, that's tough, bro. I definitely rooting for y'all, and yeah, whenever y'all have me on, I'll definitely, spread the word, and I love, seeing other, sports analysts like myself, doing their thing. For all of y'all watching right now, really appreciate y'all for tuning in. We'll definitely, play back some clips, have some reels, some TikToks for everyone that wasn't able to catch the live. But again, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz. Fly, Eagles, fly. We out. Yeah.